Hey guys, how you doing today? I just wanted to come to you and talk to you today about some software updates and configurations. So welcome to Tactical and Practical Day. It's exactly what we do here on Tactical and Practical Day. We roll up our sleeves and we actually use the software. And the software that I want to show you today are some AI apps that are totally configured, which can be totally custom. So we're going to be looking at OpenClaw, OpenRouter, OmniRouter, Caveman, and Graphify, using all of this on a Windows laptop utilizing Microsoft OneDrive. Now, the benefits here are that, first off, it's totally free. I spent $10, which was optional, not $10 a month, just a one-time $10 thing to increase my usage from 50 to 1,000 queries, but you don't have to. And the other benefit here is the AI answers will never use unnecessary tokens because Caveman compresses them. Um, it will never waste time reading through um, configuration file after configuration file because Graphify will create relationships. We've configured it to run automatically whenever your computer starts. So all this stuff loads in the background, so you don't have to load any of it. And yeah, it routes through a bunch of free tools to create like a console or a fusion. And it goes to at least 3 to 4 models, and then it passes it to sometimes three, sometimes four. It passes it to a judge model, and the judge model gives you the final output. So it's like two different people debating or three different people debating, then it goes to the judge, and the judge or the chairman gives the final output for the AI answer. And so there's all kinds of reasons why you would want to do this stuff. First off, in my opinion, when you go through multiple models and the models are randomized, you get a better response, a more comprehensive response. The other thing is, as there are restrictions for things like Claude, Anthropic, where there's watermarks, these don't have a watermark. In the very small possibility that the judge is a Anthropic model for the final output, you can have two options. You can run a script afterwards that rips out the watermark, or you can do what I did, which is put some probability statistical weighting on how the models work. So basically, I have 17 different models that it provides weightings for, and it selects those models before it goes to any other models. And I have a rule in place that the judge can only be one of 3 providers, and it randomly chooses one of those 3 providers. Well, not randomly, it does some health background checks, but the final output will never come from Anthropic. It'll never come from Gemini, and it'll never come from ChatGPT. Is the moral of the story here? Those can be inputs, those can be council members, but the final output will never be that. And so when the council debates on the answer and the judge or the chairman produces the answer is a unbiased, untraced answer for you to use to be your first draft, or for you to then put your own spin on it and do as you wish, so that there are no restrictions on you. The other good thing about the way that I have done this, and once again, it's totally free, is that unlike ChatGPT models that can be proactively traced, like if you put something nasty in a search inside of ChatGPT, not only do they save that, but they will proactively send that to the powers that be, and you could get yourself in trouble, even if you're just fooling around with this stuff, because ChatGPT discloses all of your information. Now, obviously, I'm not suggesting you to do anything mischievous. What I am saying is that you should be allowed to use this without being restricted, without being traced, and that's what all of this setup is going to do for you. And so that's kind of my introduction of what I did and why I did it. And what I'll do now is I'll share my screen and I'll walk you through how I set this up. And once again, guys, totally open source, 100% free. I spent $10. It was a one-time thing just because the $10 increases your queries from your standard default 50 to it gives you about 1,000. To be clear, I don't use this as my main model. I'm still a ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini kind of guy for main stuff. I use this as my backup. Um, and so, yeah, with that said, let me share my screen with you and let me show you how I did this, why I did this, and some of the features and functions that I think you're going to care about. Okay, great. So let's, in the spirit of tactical and practical day, let's roll up our sleeves and get right into it. So I'm just going to share my screen here and we'll click share and oh, let's, and where are we? And we'll share the whole screen. Okay, let's minimize everything. Okay, so let's first go into OmniRouter and let's move these controls out of the way. So what OmniRouter is mm, a localized router that you can run locally on your computer like I am. I'm running this on a Windows laptop. You can host it on a cloud too. You always have the option. But what it basically does is it routes your AI query, your large language model query, through multiple models and multiple providers for a couple of reasons. Reason number one is if you're only going through one model, let's say ChatGPT, and ChatGPT has a problem and it goes down, well, what are you going to do? If you only use Anthropic and Anthropic gets restricted, what are you going to do? So OmniRoute creates a backup and a redundancy for you by saying it routes through many models. There's over 50 different models it routes through. It randomizes that model based on a combo selection you tell it, based on a weighting selection, based on what's the best for coding, what's the best for token usage, what's free, et cetera, et cetera. How do I use a combination of best for token? So maybe if I have a paid account, I hook it up to, maybe I have a paid Claude account, I hook it up to, and I'm starting to run out of credit so it can finish the job with a free model. It's a global system. So it has access to all of the Eastern models as well. So that is one of the reasons why you would use OmniRoute. OmniRoute also has some built-in compression tools like Caveman and RTK, which will compress as the information messages are being sent back and forth to use the least amount of tokens. They claim it can do up to 75% token reduction. And as you know, token just means cost because that's how they charge you. They charge you based on your token usage. So if you can compress that, why wouldn't you do it? So let me just show you a graph here that they give you that I think is very helpful. And I'm just going to zoom in. And just disregard the colors for now. Don't worry about the colors. But what this is saying is this is OmniRoute in the middle. So you use your AI harness. I use OpenClaw, and I'm going to show you OpenClaw in a second. But you hook your harness up to this, and the query goes from your AI harness, your AI tool, to OmniRoute, and then OmniRoute sends it out. Now I have some very specific combo logic in here, and I'll show you that combo logic in a moment. But the idea is the query comes into OpenRouter, and then it says, I'm going to go to Anthropic, or I'm going to go to OpenAI, or I'm going to go to Grok, or I'm going to go to Gemini, or I'm going to go to DeepSeek, or I'm going to go to Qwen, which is Alibaba's model, or I'm going to go to one of the NVIDIA M, they're open source, or I'm going to go to Kimi. And so all of these icons that you see here that are connected to the OmniRouter are connected because I went and manually connected them one by one. Now, aside from the configuration piece, I love configuration. I love tinkering with this stuff. So configuring all this stuff for me, I enjoyed. But the hardest part or the most tedious, most difficult part was going one by one and connecting all of these things. And by connecting, I mean, I connected the API key. Or if it was something where I already had a paid account, I logged in and I gave it authorization. That is the most painful part here because you have to actually go one by one. And you can see I have a lot here. So you'd have to do that one by one. That being said, it's a one-time setup and then it lasts forever. What do I mean by forever? OpenClaw is a open source system. OmniRoute is an open source system. They're both running locally on my computer. So that's what I mean by they run forever. Um, this is very, very important. I want to drill this point home, hammer this point home. If you are using only Anthropic, or you are only using OpenAI, or you are only using Gemini, or you're only using DeepSeek, and one of them goes down, there's a problem with them, your whole operation shuts down. So a lot of what I'm showing you in this example is a way that I've done it for free. I don't pay for any tokens. I don't pay for any subscriptions through this. This is my backup system and it works. And in my opinion, it gives me a more comprehensive answer. But if you're running a business off of this and it goes down, one of the providers goes down, it doesn't matter. The routing logic will automatically route you to the next best one. And you can set next best one up based on your preferences, or you can let it do health checks. So let's go into some of the preferences now that you got this, because this is important. So this is the web interface for OmniRoute. Once you install it and once you let the services run, you go into this web interface. They give you a little desktop icon. But like I said, I have it configured so that when my computer boots up and I log in, it automatically loads in the background with some other things I have running in the script. If you don't prefer to do it that way, we could show you how you do a command line, how you start the service, you make sure the service is running okay, and then you load the icon. The icon gives you this interface here. So you have options on how you like to do it. Me personally, I think it's easier for it to just run minimize in the background, and if I want to look at it, I look at it. But once you set OmniRoute up, you really never need to look at it again. You're going to be interfacing with OpenClaw. So here are some of the preferences that I was talking about. We're going to go to combos. Okay. Now you can see you can do all kinds of presets, create combos. Combos for routing logic is what I mean. What I have here is an AI Council Fusion model. And I'll show you in a second. But basically what this means is that the way I've configured this AI Council Fusion model is it goes through OpenRouter first, and I'll show you the OpenRouter account in a second. It routes OpenRouter to all of the free models in OpenRouter using a Fusion Council model. Council, once again, meaning it goes out to 3 or 4 models, which are totally random based on which models and which connection looks to be the healthiest. And it doesn't keep repeating the same models over and over again, so it's random. And then it selects a judge and it sends the final output of those 3 or 4 models to a judge. And based on the answer, the judge then returns the response. So you have a very comprehensive answer here. In addition, I have a backup piece, which basically says if everything in OpenRouter fails, which the probability of everything in OpenRouter failing is OpenRouter going down, which I doubt would happen, but it could happen. If everything in OpenRouter fails, then it comes back into OmniRoute and it goes through all of those free providers that I just showed you. And once again, I have selected the combination of free. So give me the best one that is free. You might say, give me the best one that's best for coding. Give me the best one that's the fastest. Give me the best one that's the most comprehensive. Or always go to Anthropic, or always go to Kimi, or always go to Quen. You can choose however you like. But this is the logic that I've set up because I want to have the best functionality while paying the least amount. So it's not so much about getting it for free, but it's saying if I'm going to pay for something, I want to get functionality for it. If I can get that functionality for free and a more comprehensive answer with a better backup, then why would I pay for it? That's just my logic, but the point is we can configure this however you like if this is something you're interested in. The last piece I want to show you here is caveman compression. And basically what this does, caveman and RTK, it will look at all of your tokens and it's telling you that based on your total token usage, it's giving me on average about a 27% savings. Now, I haven't been using this very long, so a 27% savings, in my opinion, is still very good. The caveman RTK compression um, documentation states up to 75% token savings. 75% token savings is very, very good. I haven't been using it very long. You can see here only 50 requests, and it's giving me a 30% savings. And it's just, configuring the software. So for me, that's a win. All right. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go into Open Router because, like I said, the first step when you run a query, any query inside of OpenClaw, the way I have it configured is that the default comes here, looks at the routing logic, goes to Open Router, goes to the free model, provides the counsel, goes to 3 or 4 models, provides the judge, provides the answer. If all of that fails, it comes into here, goes through all these models, picks the best one that's free, and provides the answer. So the probability of it failing or any one model going down is very, very low. There's anywhere between 50 to 100 models that it's choosing from. So once again, I picked free, but you can pick what's the best for coding, what's the best for reasoning, logic, what's the fastest, most comprehensive. You can pick anything you like. All right, so let's go into Open Router. Okay. So what I'm showing you here on my Open Router page is I'm logged in and I'm inside of my activity tab. Now, like I said, I haven't been using this for very long. This is something that I've set up recently as a backup, and I'm going to continue to bolt onto this. What I mean by bolt onto it is the good thing about open source systems like OpenClaw is as there's new software and programs like OmniRouter, like OpenRouter that come out that people are building basically for free, you can bolt that onto your OpenClaw and customize it really as you wish. And I like that. I like the opportunity to customize it. So what it's saying here is that my token volume is about 4 million, almost about 4 million. And out of that 4 million token, it's estimating I've spent about 32 cents. Now, I haven't spent a dime. This is an estimated spend. Even though I loaded this with 10 bucks, 10 bucks will raise your query volume from the default standard, no funding in the account, 50 up to 1,000. So that's why I did it. But the $10 still hasn't been touched, and it won't ever be touched because once again, I have my routing logic configured so that it comes into here based on a Fusion counsel and it is free. So let's scroll down a little bit. You can see here some of the models it's using. Gemini Flash, GPT Luna, Flash 3.6, DeepSeek version 4, DeepSeek version 4 Pro, other, et cetera, et cetera. All right, some other models, Mimetron, this is NVIDIA stuff, DOTS 3, GPT OSS, other. Token breakdown, just a visualization of those tokens. You see about 4 million there. Let's just click explore here. So guys, look at all of these models. Are you seeing what I'm showing you on my screen? Are you guys paying attention to this? Look at this. Gemini, GPT, NVIDIA's model, Flash, DeepSeek, Nemo, Gemma. All right. This is only 10 rows of data. It's giving you the estimated costs. Once again, I haven't seen, fractions of a cent, the estimated cost here. It looks like the main models it's used so far is a combination of Gemini and DeepSeek. I don't know if you guys realize how powerful this is. Most of us are stuck on Claude or we're stuck on ChatGPT. And don't box yourself into one model. If you become dependent on one model, what happens when that model goes down? If you become dependent on one model, what happens when that model puts a restriction in place and they tell you now you can't do this in your business anymore? What are you going to do? This is configured for a one-time configuration for an auto routing setup that it goes out. So right now there's about 50 models it chooses across. And a year from now, maybe there's 500 models. I don't care. Based on a health check, it's going to go out and find the best model. It's going to go through that counsel. Based on those 3 or 4 models' answers, it goes through a judge and then it returns the response. Now, there's a piece of Python code that I'm not going to show you that I made a slight configuration to this. And what I did was in that Python code was I gave a weighting of 17 models. So out of the 50, the 100 that are in here, I gave those 17 models that I selected a higher weighting. And I said, as you randomize based on a health check and you produce the council, I want you to put a higher weighting on these 17 models. And so it does. In addition, I put a weighting on the judge model or the chairman, the final model response. And what I said was, have it be basically don't ever be one of these three, but instead be one of these three, and you can randomize it. And so this ensures a couple things for me. It ensures that I'm getting the best of both worlds, but when I get an answer, that answer is not going to have a watermark. It's not going to have hidden characters. It's not going to be traceable. And then I can customize it how I wish, which is what I want. I don't want to be restricted. Okay. What else can I show you here? It's hooked up to Graphify. So once again, in the configuration settings, I configured Graphify to, after the initial run, it runs every single time the computer runs in the background, and it scans one specific directory that is hooked up to my Microsoft 11 Windows account, which is hooked up to a OneDrive. And the reason why I have it hooked up to a OneDrive is so that I can take this setup anywhere. I can install it on my desktop. I haven't put this into a cloud environment yet because I'm basically going to run my own cloud off of my desktop. But the reason why it's on my OneDrive, the Graphify, and all of the configuration settings is because that's automatically backed up. I'm already paying for it through Windows anyway. I think it's like cost me $1 a month. And the configuration files and the Graphify files are small. But when you load a query, the queries will read through your Graphify, which creates like a virtual brain. And it just once again, it's faster, it's more comprehensive, and it's better for token use. So let's do a quick test here. Let's just go to ChatGPT. And if you hear my dog crying in the background, I apologize. He likes anytime I engage with anything other than him, he likes to cry. If I get on the phone, he goes crazy. If somebody comes to the door or comes over, he goes crazy. So even when I'm talking to you guys. All right, so let's just open up a new chat here. Let's just say anything. Now, what I'm going to show you is that yes, ChatGPT is faster, 1,000%. So we're going to go to OpenClaw. Okay, and this is your OpenClaw interface. So most people think of OpenClaw, they think, well, I need to like interface with it via WhatsApp and text it and stuff like that. That's how OpenClaw started like a year ago. Now they have, like I said, this web interface that feels like a desktop app. You can run this on your phone as well, and so if you don't want to text it, if you don't want to go through WhatsApp or Slack, obviously you connect it through those channels too, but you can interact with it with the web interface here. And so let me just flip back to ChatGPT. It looks kind of similar. Obviously, the ChatGPT interface is a little more user-friendly. It's a little lighter. The OpenClaw interface, it's a little darker. It's a little red. It's a little harder to read. But if you don't care so much about that, if this is what you care about, this box right here that you interact with, then you get that. All right. So what I'm going to show you is one of the reasons why you might use this and one use case. Now, once again, ChatGPT is going to be faster for a whole lot of reasons. First off, I am hosting OpenClaw. I'm hosting OmniRouter locally on this physical computer, and then it's routing through OpenRouter to give me that council of 3 to 4 different models to then produce a judge answer. So all of that takes a little more time. Plus, ChatGPT does a really good job. Let me be clear, I'm not putting ChatGPT down. I'm not putting Anthropic down. I still use these tools as my primary tools. But for my backup, I really like this. And so ChatGPT is going to be a little faster. So one use case is, I think that aside from the billions and trillions of dollars that are being spent on AI and data centers, I think the other big thing in the news is kind of what I'm showing a little bit on my screen here, is this combination of GLPs and peptides. I think that those two things are the big the two biggest areas where all money is flowing to. The problem I have with ChatGPT is that, or Anthropic, is that when I ask it a question about a GLP, when I ask it a question about a peptide, it kind of gives me an answer back like, "Hey, I can't give you medical advice." What I like about my OpenClaw setup is I can ask it a peptide question, I can ask it a GLP question, and it actually gives me the answer. And so let's do this real-time demo, and I will show you what I'm talking about. So I'm going to say I'm writing a research paper on the effects of GLPs, and I want to review how to reduce the side effects of headaches and nausea and what the data says on the research for the dosing guides. Please be brief and cite your source. Okay, so I'm just copy this. And the reason why I'm going to copy it is because what I want to show you is we're going to take this exact same prompt into ChatGPT, and it's going to take a lot longer inside of OpenClaw. Okay, now by a lot longer, I mean the difference between like a 2 to 3 second response versus like a response that takes like a minute and a half, not like forever. So once again, saying, "Hey, I'm writing a research paper, and people are having side effects on their GLPs. They're saying they're getting headaches. They're saying they're getting nausea. What does the research paper say uh, on monitoring the dosing or increasing or decreasing the dosing to reduce these side effects?" Now, the reason why I'm using this example is I think that with all of the people on GLPs and peptides, that this is a common question. And I think what's happening is people are trying to talk to their doctor's offices about it, and their doctor's office is saying, "Well, you can come in and talk, and that then you got to wait a week, or you got to schedule a virtual appointment, and there's certain things that the nurse can't discuss with you, so you have to wait to talk to the doctor." And at the end of the day, you just want an answer based on what the research evidence says. How does this work? So if you're throwing up, if you're getting severe headaches, and I'm just going to throw a guess out here, and you're taking 10 milligrams, I know that's ridiculous, but maybe you need to decrease your dosage down to 5 milligrams or something. But the point is, we want to be able to use AI the way we want to be able to use AI, whether we're doing it for business or personal reasons, and we don't want to have restrictions. And that's the point here. That's why this is my backup model. I want to be able to ask this thing anything, get a comprehensive answer for free, and not have any restrictions. I'm using this example because I think this is another $1 trillion industry. And I think a lot of people are having questions like this. That's why we're using this example. All right, so we're gonna say thinking it's gonna take about 56 tokens, and then once again there it's saying it's going through that AI Fusion Council model via my OmniRoute Open Router. All right, so we're just gonna fire this off. Now let's go into ChatGPT and fire the same thing off. Now the reason why I went into OpenClaw first is because I know it's going to take longer. All right. So same response, and we're set here on medium. Let's just see what the thinking model is. Yeah, I mean that's more than fine. That's way more horsepower in this model than we need. But the point is, we're taking the same exact prompt, putting it in twice, and let's see how fast ChatGPT is. ChatGPT is pretty quick. It's about 407 now. Okay. Let's just wait here and be patient and see what the return is. Okay, so nausea side effects. Eat smaller, lower meals. Pause. Okay. Headaches. I'm surprised here, guys. I'm very surprised. 10% with placebo. FDA example dosing. It's actually giving me the dosing. I'm very surprised because it wasn't. When I was doing this maybe about a month ago, it refused to give me dosing information And basically it said something to the effect of, I can't give you medical advice. So we'll test it again and we'll see. But so this is a very, very good answer. I'm happy with this. I love this. It's actually giving you dosing and instructions on how to reduce the headaches and nausea. So I love this. It wasn't doing this about a month ago, but maybe they fixed some of the overly restricted things, which is good. Let's see what OpenClaw did. Okay. All right. It's saying, hydration, magnesium, start slow. It also gives you dosing protocol. I told it to be more concise. That's why it's more concise. Um, okay. I like this. I like this too. Let's do something a little more tricky. Um, let's say peptides for, let's say peptides for healing and, muscle soreness, back pain. Let's see how this one goes because most peptides are going back and forth with FDA approval in the news. So, what I'm saying here is I'm writing a research paper on peptides for healing and muscle soreness and back pain. Can you tell me what the research says about peptides to use and the dosing of them? All right. So that's an open call. Let's go to ChatGPT. Let's ask it the same exact thing, just a copy and paste. Okay, yeah, they definitely lifted the restrictions here. You see here, BPC 157, thymosin beta, CJC 1295, ipamorelin. Very, very interesting because, and I love this. No complaints here. Um, it's giving me the answer unrestricted, which is what I want. That's what I want. ChatGPT and Anthropic models about a month ago were not giving me an unrestricted answer. They were giving me restricted answers, and it was saying, I can't provide medical advice on dosing. Um, so this is great. I love to see this. Let's see what OpenClaw did, and it's still going out and fetching. So yeah, it definitely takes longer, especially when you go through this routing tool. Let's see if we can get ChatGPT to throw up a restriction on us. Like, in other words, we're trying to see what are the restrictions that ChatGPT or these mainstream models have on them that are going to restrict us versus using something like OpenClaw going through all of these free models, which will not restrict us. So once again, we can use AI however we want to use AI and get a straight answer. So can you tell me how to reconstitute the backwater for a peptide such as, I don't know, such as the one with the nickname Rata, so I can set it up for a 1 milligram dose. My Rata is a 5 milligram bottle. Okay, so I'm intentionally prompting it here to try and get very specific dosing information because from what I've seen in the past, and they've lifted some of the restrictions, which is good. I'm trying to see where it's in the past given me that that blocker and it says like I can't tell you this stuff. This is medical advice. You have to ask your doctor. I can't tell you. So let's see. Basically, I'm just saying I want to reconstitute, one of the GLPs, GLP-3, retatrutide. I have 5 mg. I want to get a 1 mg dose. How would I do that? All right, so you see here it's gotten much better. So it's basically saying I can't do the concentration math. Um, Retatrutide is still being investigated. It's not FDA approved. Lilly states, because they're under Eli Lilly is trying to, at least from what they said in the news, trying to stop anyone from producing this, and only they can sell it. And then what it's telling you is just some, generic volume dosage on how you can reconstitute the peptide. So this is good. Um, this is good. Let's see what OpenClaw will do. All right, so this was the for healing and soreness. Okay, so good. Little more concise than ChatGPT, but it also took twice as long. So let's go with this reconstitution example. And let's double check here what ChatGPT said. Yeah, I can't do the reconstitution math. It's still being investigated, not FDA approved. But it's still good that it's giving you the volume and the reconstitution. So let's see what OpenPlus says. Now, the other important point I want to make here is that um, as ChatGPT, Anthropic, as Gemini go back and forth with these restrictions and make things more strict or less strict, um, there's really nothing you can do about it other than to just keep trying or try and ask the question in different ways or try and find other places to get it. When you have a backup system like this that runs locally, or you can pay to host it on the cloud, or you can turn your computer into your own cloud, um, you have a lot less restrictions. And so I'm not advocating asking this thing medical dosing advice. What I'm saying is that I'm using this as an example because I think that this is something that's very popular in the news, and you shouldn't if you're having side effects, you should be able to get an answer, and you shouldn't have to wait a week to talk to your doctor or a couple days to go to the nurse and then go to the doctor. You should just be able to have an answer, not based on opinions, but that answer is based on what the actual research data is. And what you should have your AI tool be able to do is to go out and read through all of those research papers and just give you a summary of that. So yeah, this is a much better answer, right? So we said, how do we reconstitute retatrutide for a 5 mg for a 1 mg dose? And it just says it. Add this amount of backwater, use this kind of insulin syringe, inject it into the vial, yada, yada, yada. Here's the total volume. Here's the concentration. Here's the draw for 20 units. Um, let's go back to the ChatGPT one. So ChatGPT gives you it's trying to play it safe. It's like, hey, I could tell you how to do the concentration math, but retatrutide is not FDA approved for public use. And so what I can do is conceptually tell you that for this volume, for this concentration, this is what it looks like. And you kind of have to figure out on your own. But this is much better from where they were. They were giving much more restricted answers. So this is better, but it still doesn't tell you what this did. And this just tells you this is how you reconstitute it. This is perfect. This is exactly what you want. Now it's a trade-off, right? Um, that's why this is my backup model. So once again, what we've done is we've installed OpenClaw, we've installed OmniRouter, we've installed Graphify, and we have it routed primarily through OpenRouter. So we installed OmniRouter, but we route it through OpenRouter. That's what I showed you on my Internet Chrome browser. So what this will do for you is give you an open source model that acts as a AI harness, which will allow you to bolt on many different plugins as things come out, primarily probably for free, and allow you to access multiple models, do it in a way that one answer goes out to multiple models. They act as a council. They debate amongst themselves anywhere between 3 to 4. That's how I said it. You can have more or less. It goes to a final judge. The judge randomly selects from 3 different providers and it excludes 3 different providers and it gives me that answer. The reason why I'm more specific with the judge opposed to the 17 models that I have weighted, now it'll still go through all 50 models, or if OpenRouter gets 100 models in a year from now, it'll still go through all of them, but I put a specific weighting on 17 of them. The reason why I have those specific 3 randomly returned to me is because I know that those 3 right now, and I don't think in the future, that's my bet, will ever have restrictions on them or watermarks. So I can use AI however I want to use it. We hook it up through OmniRouter using a combination tool, and we hook it up to RTK Caveman compression. The example I've shown, I've only been using this for a little while. It's showing me almost a 30% reduction in token usage, but the documentation claims up to a 50 to 75% token usage. There's also redundancy failovers. So if all of these models fail in OpenRouter, because OpenRouter goes down, which is very rare, but still, it'll reroute it to a whole bunch of other models in OmniRouter and still provide that answer. My primary criteria, aside from my model weightings, is that I want it all for free. I've only spent $10 on this, and that was a one time. That $10 took me from an OpenRouter tier of about 50 queries to 1,000. Now, I'm never going to do 1,000 queries because I use this as my backup model. But your primary focus may not be free. It may be what's the best coding agent, what's the best reasoning agent, what's the best research agent. You can set it however you want. I'm just sharing with you how I've set it and how I can install it for you if that's something you're interested in. And then finally, we used a use case of asking medical information about GLPs and peptides because those are so booming and big in the news. And what we can see here is that while ChatGPT has lifted a lot of the restrictions, it's still very careful in how it answers, giving you a generic answer in the example of how to dose and reconstitute a peptide. It's not really going to tell you how to do that. It's going to say, well, for example, if you wanted this amount, this is how you could do it. Now, in this peptide example, there are peptide calculators and peptide API services out there that charge $500 a month to do this stuff. There are lightweight ones that maybe only charge you 20 to $50 a month if you're not hooking it up through an API, if you just use it for personal use. But all of these charges are completely arbitrary. You can see you can do this yourself here. You can run your model locally or you can host it in the cloud. And when you want a backup, when you want an unrestricted answer, when you just want to know, then you can have that. Okay. Sorry, I got distracted here. I was just checking. One of the things I have pipe out to me is that I have it always pipe out which model it uses, and it reads the logs to do that. Sometimes the log only contains my AI council variable, but sometimes it actually pipes out the name of the model it used. Like, so for example, it's just an additional information reference point for me, in addition to looking at the statistics I showed you with activity. But you can see here, like GPT 4.0 mini was one of the models it used. That's fine. Um, the other thing here is that we can cover this more in another video, but because this is an open source system, you can bolt on all kinds of things onto OpenClaw. So like there are humanizing skills, there are watermark removing skills. Like, so if you're like, Mark, this whole auto routing setup is just it's a bit much for me. I don't think I want to do that. you can bolt on additional skills so that when it produces an output, that output ensures it never has a watermark. It ensures it removes all of the most common examples of how AI writes. Now, the purpose for why you would do these things is not to try and plagiarize and pass this off as your work. The purpose is just to save you time. It's just less editing, it's less stripping. You want to, once again, you want to get to the answer as fast as possible, and you want to use AI how you want to use it without the restrictions. Okay, so that concludes the demonstration for today. Let me stop this and let me just show you one more overview. Okay, so as we wrap this up, I have this all wrapped up in a one-page summary I'm going to show you. And let's share my screen again. Share. Let's minimize this. Okay. All right. So is this in the way? Is it stopping you from reading this? Yeah, let's get that out of the way. This is everything we just discussed in a one-page summary. So basically, we have OpenClaw plus OmniRoute plus OpenRouter to give one free Fusion council. Fusion, once again, meaning it goes through multiple models, they debate, and it gives you the answer as a judge. I'm running this locally. It goes through everything locally and then it goes out to OpenRouter. OpenRouter is connected to the internet, which is connected to all the different models. So is OmniRoute. I'm running OmniRoute locally. Don't have to run this stuff locally. You can install it in a cloud. I can do that for you. This is just how I prefer it because when I set this up on my desktop, I'm going to have my own cloud, which I'm going to call from my phone and use from anywhere, which doesn't cost me anything other than my normal internet connection. But it's up to you. So we use OpenClaw for user chats, tools, memory, humanizing. I have my OpenClaw hooked up to browse the web now. It goes out and it uses DuckDuckGo basically for, it uses DuckDuckGo so that my information doesn't get, saved and sold by Google. But mostly I use Google Chrome for normal things. But when I use this, I want to use DuckDuckGo because I just want to have the option of not sharing my data with the world like ChatGPT automatically collects your data. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to hook it up to a voice agent. So if you think about 11 Labs, if you think about GPT live transcriptions, 11 Labs is another service. I'm going to install a free repository which allows me to interact with my OpenClaw just as good as those, once again for free. So it goes out to OmniRoute using this port, and it will go through RTK and caveman compression. They call it caveman compression because the idea is it talks like a caveman and it uses the least amount of words, the least amount of tokens possible to compress all the messages back and forth. In the example we showed, I'm showing about a 30% reduction in tokens, but the documentation claims up to 50 to 75%. It then goes out to this AI Council Fusion, which does parallel calls, meaning multiple of the same query of the same prompt to multiple models to then give it a one judge answer. I have it just configured to this millisecond guardrail so that it doesn't time out or anything. But I can configure all that for you. You don't need to worry about what's under the covers or under the hood. I can show you if you want. I can walk you through the Python configuration file, but it's just a couple of little configs that make sure that it just always works for you seamlessly. It has that dynamic OpenRouter dynamic free setting so that as OpenRouter continues to add models, continues to add providers, you don't need to hard code anything. The 17 models that I have weighted, I don't need to really worry about that hard coding. It's just my preference, but you could remove that table if you want and just say automatically go free. Once you set up that variable, it goes to OpenRouter and it will always go to the free models. Once again, you don't have to be free. You can say, what are the best coding models? What are the best models for research? You can choose what you want. I go out to those council members. It gives me, or it gives the system those 2 to 3 answers, and then it goes to the judge. The judge is the one that gives the final synthesis and the final response. I have weighting on my judge, so it doesn't go to three providers, but it does give weighting to three other providers. So you're thinking in your head in terms of don't ever have the judge be ChatGPT or Anthropic, but always make sure the judge is like Quen or Kimi or DeepSeek. And the reason why that's important is because models like ChatGPT and Claude can be in the council providing the answer, but you don't want it to give the final output because the final output from these American models are being heavily restricted and throwing watermarks in place, and they're not always giving you the answer because it'll say I can't, I can't give you medical advice or I can't advise on that. And so routing it through different models for the final judge will help to reduce that probability, not totally eliminate it, but reduce it to give that final response. So the fallback ladder is that if everything in um, OpenRouter goes down, it'll go to OmniRouter to a bunch of different free models. It'll compress that using RTKey Caveman. It'll cache the session. It'll clean it up, and then it'll produce the answer inside of my OpenClaw. And when it produces the answer, I also have it read the log and tell me the final model that it uses. It doesn't always see that in the log file. You can also check that on OpenRouter's webpage, or you can check it on your OmniRouter activity setting. But as just a quick blip, I like when it gives me the answer, it actually tells me that the final judge model that it routes it to. In the example we saw, it was Gemini Mini. I forget which one. But let me stop this. Yeah, so that's it, guys. I know it looks like a lot. It's not. Once you have it configured and it's up and running, it's up and running just like, just like anything else. You just OpenClaw opens up in the background when you load your computer, or if we host it on a cloud, we can have it on your phone for you, and you just use it. Understand that it is going to be a little slower. I'm talking slower in terms of seconds, not minutes, because it's routing through multiple models. It's having those multiple models go back and forth. It's giving you that final judge model. It's going through compression. It does take a little longer, but think about it like this. When you talk to someone and they give you an answer fast, 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 it's because they're not thinking. When you talk to someone that pauses and then they answer, it's because they're thinking. And that's what I've trained these routing tools to do, to give me a more comprehensive answer and to do it for free. So I'm not always using the latest and greatest and using the most amount of tokens. Now, you might be saying, Mark, I only want to use the latest and greatest ChatGPT model, Anthropic model, Gemini models. I only want to use the best. Some guys are like that. That's not a problem. This is a auto routing tool. We can set it to be the best. We can set it to be the most cost efficient, whatever you want. For me, this is my backup system. So I want it unrestricted and I want it free. If you have any questions, guys, please feel free to reach out. I love talking about this stuff. I would love to help you set it up. So if you're someone that's working inside of a large organization and you're trying to figure out how to reduce your token usage internally, or how to just create better internal working tools that are unrestricted, that you can build operational processes around, this is a great harness to do that with. I'd love to do that with you. If you're a small to medium business size owner, and you want to get this going inside of your business, or for just personal reasons, if you're like, yeah, I don't want to waste money on all these subscription services. I don't want to have restrictions when I use this stuff. I just want an answer. Well, whatever one of those three use cases are, I would love to help you out. Please feel free to reach out to me. Give me a call sometime, shoot me a ping, and remember to hustle harder. Let's talk again soon. Have a great day. Bye bye.